Hello. For those of you who are new to this conference, my name is Captain Russel Fritz, the Community Relations and Development Secretary for the Intermountain Division in the Mile High City of Denver. Since I cannot be with you this week, Bob Burchell has asked that I do this video on Salvation Army trivia. I've attempted to find questions that we as PR people, and people who meet the public and the media, should have readily available for quick little insights into our history. Actually, it would make it sound quite intelligent if we knew everything, but if we could just remember a little bit, that's what really counts. Some of these questions are easy, some are a little bit more difficult, and I know people like Russ Fritz will know all the answers. Now, for our first question. Number one, hey, listen, take a piece of paper and write the answer down, and then when we get done with all the questions, we'll go back and we will say what the question was and where I received this information. Number one, who coined the phrase, quote, on the wagon? Now that refers to people who have a drinking problem, and this problem has been solved. Who coined the phrase on the wagon? Now number two, what was the name of the Salvation Army book published in 1890, quote, to the memory of the companion, counselor, and comrade of nearly 40 years, the sharer of my every ambition for the welfare of mankind, my loving, faithful, and devoted wife, this book is dedicated. What was the name of that book? Question number three. Mrs. Cottrell approached Bramwell Booth and started the ministry in her home that soon grew into a national work throughout Britain and shook the foundation of British law. What ministry did Mrs. Cottrell start? Question number four. Is it true or false that the theme song of the Salvation Army, Onward Christian Soldiers, was written by a Salvation Army major in honor of William Booth's 1898 trip to the United States? Question number five, and this is another true or false question. Joe the Turk, an early day flamboyant Salvation Army officer, was Turkish. True or false? Question number six, how many times was Joe the Turk put in jail as an Army officer? Question number seven. The Salvation Army work in the western United States started in what major city? Question number eight. What was the rest of the phrase by William Booth to his son Bramwell when he said, quote, do something, unquote? Do something. What was the rest of the phrase? Number nine. What is the name of the medal given to soldiers and officers for meritorious and exceptional service? Question number 10. What is the name of the medal given to advisory board members for meritorious and exceptional service? And let's close this off with two true or false questions. The first one being question number 11. The tambourine is a Salvation Army designed instrument. True or false? And question number 12. Another true or false. The New Frontier is the official organ of the Salvation Army. True or false? Now that you have all got your answers down on paper, let's see what we have here as far as the correct. If you receive 100%, 12 correct, you've been doing a lot of reading, I can say that. Number one, who coined the phrase on the wagon? This is quite interesting because it was Evangeline Booth on Thanksgiving Day in 1909. Now, this came out of the book, The General Was a Lady, page number 128. If you remember, she had the Drunkards Brigade that would go through the streets of downtown New York, and they would pick up the drunks and put them on the wagon, and they would carry them into their hall where they would have a hot coffee and sandwiches and soup, and then they would try to convert them into the gospel. Well, that evening on Thanksgiving Day of 1909, she coined the phrase, "We are going out and getting men and putting them on the wagon." Of course, some other bright soul just took it a step further and said, "Well, I fell off the wagon." Not literally, but that means they started drinking again. Evangeline Booth for question number 1. Question number 2. What was the name of the Salvation Army book published in 1890? And I won't go through that long dedication, but actually I'm sure most of you know that the name of the book was In Darkest England and the Way Out, and it was written by William Booth, and it was a foundation stone, the very beginning of the vast social work scheme that the Salvation Army actually became involved in. And southern Colorado, right here, we have down by the town called Holly, we had a Salvation Army colony, Amity, and we had thousands of people living there. I've been there myself, and it's really quite interesting seeing the old brick houses that, as a result of this book, In Darkest England and the Way Out. And that was part of the book in the overseas scheme, if you remember that big chart. In fact, there's probably one hanging up down there somewhere. Question number 3. Mrs. Cottrell approached Bramwell Booth and started the ministry in her home that soon grew into a national work and shook the foundations of British law. What ministry did Mrs. Cottrell start? Well, it all started in the early days of the Army, about 1870, somewhere around in there. It was still called the East Inland Christian Mission, when prostitutes used to come in and come into the meeting, and they would go down to the altar and they would pray to be relieved of the terrible conditions that they found themselves in. They would pray with them, and maybe a soldier would take them home, but they could spend the night, but there was no place for them to go, no refuge. And unfortunately, these poor girls were forced back into the street, into their despicable trade. So Mrs. Cottrell went to Bramwell Booth, and of course I'm sure all of you know that he was the son of William, and said to him, "Sir, I would like to do something. I would like to have a home for these girls to go to." And of course, we all know what happened. Bramwell said, "Do it." She became, well, today we would call her an employee of the Army, and started this home for prostitutes. And it all went in and finally ended up with a bill passed through Parliament on white slavery, and that's quite a story. I'm sure all of you are familiar with it. But Mrs. Cottrell is the one that started the whole thing. Question number 4. Is it true or false that the theme song of the Salvation Army, Onward Christian Soldiers, was written by a Salvation Army major in honor of William Booth's 1898 trip to the United States? Well, that's a good question, I thought, and I'm sure all of you got the correct answer. And it's false. Actually, Onward Christian Soldiers was written in 1865 by a pastor in the Church of England for a procession of Sunday school members. He, according to the companion to the songbook of page 212, he was really pushed for time, and he wrote it very quickly. And all these little Sunday school kids came walking in and walked up to the front, and as they came in, well, the choir sang Onward Christian Soldiers that this Church of England pastor wrote in the same year, the very same year that the Salvation Army was founded. Actually, the theme song is not Onward Christian Soldiers, probably O Boundless Salvation, for those of you who are Salvationists. But outside of the Salvation Army, not many people know O Boundless Salvation, but everyone associates Onward Christian Soldiers with the Salvation Army. Question number 5. This is another true or false question. Joe the Turk, an early day flamboyant Salvation Army officer, was Turkish. Well, if you answered it false, you're correct. And if you answered it true, you're close. The reason is that he was actually born in Turkey, but he was an Armenian by race. So you could say, yes, he was Turkish by the fact that he was born in Turkish. I'm an American by the fact that I was born in America, but my Prussian ancestry says that I am very much of a Prussian. And my wife says the only thing I'm missing sometimes is my swastika. Incidentally, if you want to look that one up, you can find it in Born to Battle, page number 68. But I would say probably the actual answer would be false. No, he was not Turkish, but he was Armenian. And that's another interesting story because the Turks and the Armenians really hate each other. They're like that most of the time. And so it's interesting that an Armenian would take on the Turkish flamboyancy that Joe the Turk did. And talking about Joe the Turk, question number 6. How many times was Joe the Turk put in jail as a Salvation Army officer? You know, it's interesting to note that some people don't even recognize that Joe the Turk was an Army officer, but he was. And he was a very good officer. And while he was an officer, he was put in jail 53 times throughout the whole country. 53 times. For those of you who were at the Congress in Pasadena, we arrested him the 54th time. However, Born to Battle, page number 68, the official is 53 times. 53 times he was put into jail. Question number 7. The Salvation Army work in the West started in what city? Of course, everyone got that right. I mean, that was an easy one, wasn't it? San Francisco. San Francisco. I was there a few weeks ago. Of course, I went to training school in San Francisco too, and the song is very true. I left my heart in San Francisco. Why, I cried when I had to leave. Question number 8. What was the rest of the phrase by William Booth to his son Bramwell when he said, quote, do something, unquote? Well, of course, we remember the story of William Booth going across London Bridge and seeing homeless, sleepless men underneath the bridge, or not sleepless men, but men sleeping under the bridge. And as he went across the bridge there, he saw these men, and he got home and he told his son Bramwell, do something, but no coddling. That's it, but no coddling. Now it's interesting that he said that. Just last night, at 1 o'clock in the morning, I was down underneath a bridge in Denver looking for people. We have a midnight soup run that goes out every night and circles around. He says it's very cold here. In fact, as I look out the window, we're supposed to have snow. Now I know in California, it's beautiful there. You have green grass and flowers are blooming at Territorial headquarters. But let me tell you, I still have snow in my backyard. And last night, when I was down by the Platte River, and when the snow and the ice along the river, and I was crawling on my hands and knees underneath the bridges, I thought about William Booth saying to Bramwell, do something. Many, many years have gone by since that statement. But yet people in the Army today are still doing something, but we're not coddling. The rest of the phrase is, do something, but no coddling. Take care of their needs, but don't coddle them. Question number 9. What is the name of the medal given to soldiers and officers for meritorious and exceptional service? And I know all of you know that. That's called the Order of the Founder. Not many people have received it, but those that have wear it with pride. Question number 10. What is the name of the medal given to advisory board members for meritorious and exceptional service? Now, all of you should know this, because this is something that each one of us can actually become involved in presenting one of these medals, and it's called the Order of Distinguished Auxiliary Service. And it's a very attractive, enameled order, a little medal that you wear right on your tunic, or well, I guess it would be a suit, because they wouldn't be officers or soldiers. Number 11. True or false? The tambourine is a Salvation Army designed instrument. Well, I read my Bible every once in a while, and in the book of Psalms, it talks about the tambourine. And going back a little bit further, David, he led the procession dancing with the tambourine when the Ark of the Covenant was brought into the city of Jerusalem. He led the procession with a tambourine. Now, it's not a Salvation Army designed instrument, but we've taken it and have used it for the glory of God, for the betterment of mankind and for the saving of souls. Number 12, the last question, another true or false question. The New Frontier is the official organ of the Salvation Army. Well, I'm sure there are some people at Territorial Headquarters who would like to say that that's true, but unfortunately it's not. The official organ of the Salvation Army is, ever this the war cry, victory, victory, ever this the war cry, victory. The war cry. Well, with that, I'll let you all go. It's been a pleasure having this few moments together sharing with you. And I do hope that all of you will have a very pleasant time at the ranch. I hope that you will be able to learn new insights into your positions, into your jobs, and be able to go back and represent the Army, the Salvation Army, to the people, the public, the media, in a new and invigorating sense. Because remember, the bottom line of the Salvation Army is our middle name, salvation. Thank you.